We're good to go.
I'm good to go.
We're live.
Good. Hey, good Saturday morning live. This is Ann C. coming at you. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to today's special call. I know you're going to really love this information. So real quickly, I'm Ann C., founder of the E-Commerce Business School, and we have Brian Cummings, who is our Executive Director of Training and Coaching. Good morning to you, Brian.
Good morning, Ann. Good morning, everybody.
I got my cup of joe.
Oh, I left my coffee in there. It's only 7 a.m. here in California, so I'm not thinking straight yet.
Yeah, it's 9 a.m. for me, and I'll be on a second soon. So I hope everybody had an awesome week. We love to connect, I should say, with our community on Saturday morning. We found out that this is a really, really great time for people that push through their week. Time to take a little chill and relax on a Saturday morning. What better way than with a Saturday morning live edition. So today's a really fun topic. I'm going to see if I can see on my page. Okay, good. All right. So if you want to bring up our slide deck,
sure.
And we're going to talk about, while Brian is doing that, in our new member orientation, we do this wealth building exercise where we ask people, where do you want to be 6 months from now? And I'm really big about quantifying results against time. And so when I ask this question, almost inevitably, and when it comes to the money side of it, they say they want to make $5,000 a month. But there's also people who say, I want to make $100,000 a year. I want to hit 6 figures. So that's what today's conversation is about. So that instead of that feeling kind of nebulous and, what exactly does that look like? We're going to bring it down to what we call brass tacks, right?
Yep. This is about scale. I know that that's a new term to people that haven't been in business before, but what's required to scale? And if you don't take this step today that we're talking about, you won't be able to scale your business. Shall I advance through these slides here, Ann?
Yeah. And I just want to make sure I see what's going on with the Facebook. Okay. And yeah, go ahead and advance the slide. And good morning to Diane. Good morning to Judith. Good morning to Karen. Good to have you here. Hey, good morning. Tim Summers in the house with his shades on. All righty. Awesome. So welcome to our new members. We have new members coming in every week. So we love having you here. And if this happens to be your very first Saturday morning live, a very warm welcome to you. Real quickly, a little bit about myself. Again, my name's Ann C., and I've become known as the Renegade, creating an international movement of online marketers, helping to create 6, 7, and 8-figure income earners. I've sold over $20 million in products, both through my own as well as affiliate programs. And I'm the very proud founder of the E-Commerce Business School. Wow, so many more people coming in. Hi, Joanne. Good morning, Gwen. Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Peggy. Good morning, Brandy in the house. Rebecca in the house. Who else? Joanne. Okay, lots of folks. This is fun. All righty. And the next, what do we got there? There you go. And my greatest satisfaction is, of course, helping people become successful with their business to create an income-changing lifestyle, which is extremely rewarding. What comes to mind really quickly is we have so many people who are caregivers to aging parents and disabled children. And having this opportunity through the E-Commerce Business School has been absolutely a game changer for these families that were hard pressed to hold down a regular job. But here through the E-Commerce Business School, they have that flexibility. Good morning, Nancy. 2 Nancys in a row there. Good morning, Yvonne and Sharon. Wow, we got a packed out house today, Brian. All right, let's go to the next slide there. Oh, we're even getting hearts. Yay. That warms our hearts, doesn't it, Brian? Okay, meet Brian Cummings, ever popular. That's at ASD Market Week, where we literally had to, we were hauling in chairs as fast as we possibly could from a different conference room. This is at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And finally, they said, no more chairs. Fire marshal says, close the door. Anyways, but we're going to keep the doors open here. Skip in the house. Good deal. Jerry in the house. names, people just keep flooding in here. So on over to you, Brian. I'm really, really excited to hear what you have to share.
Well, here a little bit more about me. I mean, Anne's already said I'm the executive director of training and coaching. And here I'm in China on the right with two of Anne's sons. So that was an awesome sourcing trip. Anything you want to share about going to China, Anne?
Oh, man.
We want to go back. Let's put it that way. I want to go
Thank
back.
you. We want to go back, and it is the most unbelievable experience of your life. So maybe we can just have a quick poll. Would anyone be interested? We don't have one planned, but if we were to plan an event to China, just write in China in the comments section. That kind of gives us a little heads up. So, all right, we can keep cruising here.
All right. So this is what we're talking about. What happens when your business hits six figures? Now, we were at the e-commerce funnel mastery workshop in Dallas last weekend, and I made this comment. I said it's rare for an e-commerce business owner to scale beyond the low six figures without bringing in help. And I know that many of you are aspiring to hit six figures, $100,000 or more in revenue. And what you're going to discover is that when you do, you're going to find that you're extremely busy. And you're going to be thinking, if I could just get a little bit of help. I did this interview with Martha Fitzenmeyer. Did I say her name correctly? I always struggle with her name. She was
Fitzenmeyer.
She was laughing at me a little bit. And this graph over here is monthly sales in December of last year when her business, it's Q4. That's when we sell so much product as e-commerce sellers. And she was hitting a tremendous goal. I'm not sure what her sales were for the year, but they were well over six figures. I know she really had to hustle. And Martha's challenge here is that she's proven that she can do this. But now, how does she double her business without having some help? How does she do that by herself?
I have to do a little shout out. Don is saying he has trouble hearing you, Brian. Can you folks write in the comment section? I hear you crystal clear, but let's just check. Can everybody hear Brian? Write in yes if you can hear Brian. And one gentleman says he can't.
If my volume's a little low, I have a mic here and I have a volume control. I can actually turn it up.
Okay.
So let me know if the volume's a little low or if it's just right.
For me, it's just right, but we'll see what people say. And otherwise, let's just keep on going.
All right. So we want to help members like Martha scale, and that requires getting some help. It requires moving from this position of considering yourself as a self-employed person to the place of being business person. And if you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you may know about this quadrant here, ESBI, where S is the self-employed. And that's where most of us as e-commerce entrepreneurs, when we first start out, that's where we're at. And you'll find very quickly it's like you're creating a job for yourself. But we need to move over to the B quadrant where we're hiring people. And eventually with scale, we want to move to the investor quadrant so we can be like Dr. Josie Shepard, who manages her business in 20 minutes a day. She's in the investor quadrant.
So the report is coming back, especially from Lisa, our operations officer, that the volume is low. So, okay. Several people are saying that. For me, you're perfect. But, for both of us, Lisa, even me too, we shall practice being on a football field, Brian.
Okay, I've turned up the volume on mine. So if Lisa could let me know if the volume is better now.
Okay, mine is all the way up, my volume on my mic. Is that better? Hello. I'm going to be on a football field. Here we go. All right.
Okay. So are we doing well? I can start yelling if we need to. That won't be any problem. So there's a gap here that when you get going with 6 figures of sales, you're going to fill this gap, that you're going to feel stretched like this unless you hire some help. So that's what we're talking about this morning. And I also want to bring up the 4-hour work week. I imagine that most of us would just love only having to work 4 hours a week. And remember, Josie Shepard had said 20 minutes a day, so she's well below this. Tim Ferriss says, the right time to hire help is before you need it. And you can imagine that. You're super, super busy and you think, okay, I'm going to bring somebody in to help me do X, but I have to train them to do that job and I don't have time to train them. I'm too busy doing it to do it and train them at the same time. So the right time to hire is before you need it.
Can I give a little story for me when I did my first hire?
Oh, please do.
Oh, there it is, your first hire. Mine was back in 2006. And it just was an overwhelming amount of work. And I chose to take what was a really, for lack of a better word, mundane task, one that I could hand off very easily to someone else. I was homeschooling at that time, and my youngest son was in 7th grade, and I had a task that took me about 2 hours a day. It was not in e-commerce. It was I was processing my leads where I would print out a letter, put in an envelope. We had a CD that went with it, etc. Anyways, I trained him up to do it side by side, and I had a sheet with every single step detailed out for him. And that was my first hire, was right out of my family. And I just spoke with someone, well, this past week, many people are doing that already, hiring people straight out of your family. It probably rings true for you too, Brian, actually.
Well, I hired outside of my family and then she moved in.
She became a part of your family.
Yeah, she became a part of our family, yes. So, Anne, we'll come back to that near the end here because I want you to talk about a few of those points. Okay?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So to understand if you're ready or not, you need to look at the opportunity cost. And for those of you who've heard that term before, you know that the opportunity cost is actually what we speak about as lost opportunity. If we have an opportunity to do something and we don't take advantage of it, it's costing us. And that's what we call opportunity cost. So when you're hiring somebody here and you're not doing that job that you'd like to do more of, you've got to ask yourself, how much will I gain by doing more of that job and less of this one? We'll get into a little bit of detail here. So this is about high value activities, HVAs, high value activities. And when you're looking at the activities in your business, you need to ask which of these activities produce the most revenue. It makes sense, right? Those are the ones you should be doing, the ones that bring in the most money. But you also, as a business owner, want to look at the activities that engage with your own strengths. Because when we work in our areas of strengths, we typically excel. That's our power point. I like to present. I love to create trainings like this. I love to organize those trainings. And for me, I'm very, very systematic. And so this is an area of strength, is creating trainings like this. So the more that I can do this, generally the more that I excel as a person. Of course, I enjoy it as well. So I get that satisfaction of creating trainings and delivering trainings. For you in your e-commerce business, you're probably primarily thinking of that very first point there. Which activities will bring in more revenue and how can I spend more time at those activities? So here's something you've probably heard me say before. The more you source, the more you sell. The more products that you can put up for sale, the more likely you're going to have more revenue. And if you're an Amazon seller, whether you're selling books or you're selling retail arbitrage or wholesale or private label, POD, whatever products that you are sourcing, the more that you can send into Amazon, generally, the more that you sell. So here as a book business, you can see I keep moving our faces around here. If you're selling books on Amazon, does it make more sense to spend time shopping for books, or book scouting as we call it, or to spend time on the right prepping those books? Which one makes more money? Bringing more books in your business or prepping the books? Obviously, it's pretty two different activities. Very clear that the more books that you source, the more time you spend there sourcing books instead of prepping, you're going to make more money. So let's run the numbers on this here. This is an example. If you were to be able to source 10 books an hour, and generally when I go out sourcing for the day, I'm looking to have a minimum of 100 books. So for me, it's pretty easy to say, well, I go out for the day, I'm going to bring back 100 or more books. That's easily 10 books or more per hour. And in my business, my net profit is about $6.50 per book. So I'm just being conservative here. 10 books per hour at $5 per book, then my net profit here is $50 an hour. But what do I have to pay here to bring somebody on? So if I'm going to have a prep person here, and this is Candy, by the way, that's my daughter-in-law. If she can do, well, Candy's amazing. Candy can do 45 books an hour. But let's just be conservative here. Let's just say she can only do 25 books per hour, or you're hiring somebody new and you expect them to do 25 books per hour. Well, that's an hourly wage here, or if you're paying them $12.50 an hour, that's going to be 50 cents per book. So the way that we look at this, our total net profit, when we subtract that $12.50 an hour from the $50 an hour that we're making by sourcing books, that leaves us with $37.50 an hour. Or if you look at it at $5 per book, you subtract out that 50 cents that you're paying for somebody like Candy, and now you have a net profit of $4.50 per book. So doesn't that make sense? Moving from this place of where you're doing it all to hiring somebody that does the prepping so you can spend that exact same time going out and sourcing. That's the type of extra money that you're making here. You need to know what the numbers are on how much you're going to gain by doing that activity and what it's going to cost you to put somebody else in a lesser value activity, and subtract one from the other, and then you get the total net profit here. Okay? So your first hire. What do you need to understand about the task? And this is what you were talking about here earlier. A clearly defined outcome. If you can't tell your employee, your worker, exactly what it is that needs to be produced, what the outcome is, you're not ready. You need to be able to clearly define that outcome. You also need a process to achieve that outcome. And you don't necessarily have to know every step, but you do need to understand the process well enough that you can oversee their work and determine that they're on the right track to achieve that outcome. And I'll give you an example of this. About 2 years ago, we switched our inventory management system over to Inventory Lab. And a number of our members in our community use Inventory Lab. So I installed Inventory Lab. I went through the tutorials. I learned what it was about. But I didn't actually go through and complete the whole shipping plan. I knew the steps from step 1, 2, 3, 4 to create the desired outcome using Inventory Lab, but I let Candy actually go through the steps. Now I understand it well enough that if she has a problem, I can help her step in there and fix that problem. I also understand it well enough to know these benchmarks and tracking. Remember the 40 to 45 books an hour that Candy can do? Well, every so often I'm tracking that. Is she keeping up with that 40 to 45 an hour? Or is she even exceeding that? So this is a KPI here for us in our business that I'm track, a key performance indicator. And I'm going to watch that on a monthly basis. When you hire somebody, you also need to make sure that they have the required skills. I mean, you don't want to hire somebody to do computer entry if they've never worked on a computer before. They should have some basic experience with that, some basic skill levels. And then do you have the necessary training to give them? So with Inventory Lab, I didn't train Candy. I went through the training so I could understand it well enough, but I had her study those training videos and her go through them so that she could become competent at this. And Ann, you had set this up for, was that your son that you set it up for?
Yeah, my youngest son, David, at that time, he was actually the very, first member of my family that I hired. Like I say, it was a mundane task. As I recall, he will process my leads. It would take him 5 minutes, the whole thing, and we had to the envelope per lead. So this is from memory because this is, I'm just ballparking. It was about 13, 14 years ago. Also, I note when people are taking ownership of the task, because as he would do it, then he would give feedback and input on how to improve upon it. Because at that time, we were also distributing leads to my entire organization. And as I got this flood of leads, and then he would distribute them, and he knew my top performers and which ones would go to which person. So for me, it's especially good when the person is not just doing that as a rote task, ROTE, meaning it's just, you don't even do it with thinking, is he would also take ownership and give me feedback, which he was in 7th grade at that time. So, but it took off that work off my plate so I could work on my highest value activity, which was building my organization, and which was, this is a very different industry, direct sales, and managing that community that I was developing, which, by the way, we did a Saturday training call every week. That was 13 years ago. So anyways, yeah, he had the skills. I knew that he was capable of doing it too.
Awesome. Awesome. So as you're listening to this and you're thinking about your own business, and I'm talking to everybody out there right now, why don't you type into the box here, the chat box in Facebook, type in what tasks that you're ready to offset. You know, those ones that you really don't enjoy doing. And then if you can, why don't you also say what you would really like to do more of? So you can put both of them in there. Less computer work, less inventory management, more sourcing, whatever it is that you want. Put both of those in there, and we'll read them off as you type them in.
That's a great question. What you want to offset and what you want to do more of. So I'll just read off some of them as they're rolling in. Lisa James is saying packing CDs. So that sounds like something she'd like to offset. That was my case too. Because that's what we did a letter, it had to be customized, and then there was a CD that went out with it. All right, so we have Don here, have someone do SEO, write the blog, etc. Okay. Quite a variety so far. Just go ahead and write in the comment section, what is the number one thing you would like to offset? And correspondingly, what would you personally like to do more of? Okay, Judith is saying more sourcing and less prep. So I take it she means for herself to do more sourcing and then less on the prep side, I think, if I'm interpreting that correctly.
Yep. I think that's a typical example for an Amazon type business. You want to get out there. It was the same thing with the books that I just showed, that same example.
Okay, Herfei is saying less computer work, inventory management. All right, Karen is saying prep, and she likes sourcing.
So when you look at the screen here, which tasks should I outsource? The first 4, product prep and fulfillment, customer service, inventory management, product research. In fact, those are some of the ones that you're mentioning right now. Those are the most obvious. And those are the 4 most simple tasks to replace in a typical Amazon or product e-commerce business here. You're mentioning product prep and fulfillment. That's what Candy does. The inventory management. Now that's something that can be done remotely. Product prep, they've got have to have their hands right on the product. So if you have the product at your own home or at your office or warehouse, then your employee has to be here. But inventory management, now that's when you are working with Amazon or working with your website, checking the numbers, making sure that you have enough in stock, doing inventory reconciliation. That can be done remotely. That means you could hire somebody over the internet to do that. The same is true with product research. So those first 4 are the require a lower skill level. And then who was it that said copywriting?
I don't know that I saw copywriting was blog writing, but I am more people writing in. Dorothy, Sharon, Charles have since written in. It looks like most everyone is saying if someone can do that packaging, which by the way, that very same son of mine, youngest, when we were doing LRA, local retail arbitrage, there too, he would do the shipping. He was in the basement and I would hear the sound of tape being ripped across the box. And when I heard that sound of tape, I thought, well, that's more money. So you keep doing that, David. The sound of the tape meant more money because it was going to be shipped out soon. But it's Sharon saying she wants to do more research and management, and she'd like to offset shipping, accounting, prepping, and social media.
Great, great. So she mentioned social media, and social media posting in itself is probably I don't want to call it a low value, let's call it a low skill requirement. That's a pretty simple task. But if they're creating social media posts, then that's a little higher level task. The same with design and image editing or copywriting, and especially paid advertising. So you're going to spend more money and you're going to seek people that have greater skills. That's often when you're now looking for somebody that's an expert in that area because you may lack that expertise. It may not be in your area of strength. So it's great to look for both of these here. The yellow sheet on the right, that's a snapshot from, wow, about 6-7 years ago when I wanted to hire a VA. And I just jotted some notes of all the things that I wanted somebody to do in my Amazon business at the time. Those are same tasks I've got here on the left, pretty much.
That's incredible that you still have that sheet.
Okay, let's see here. Let's talk about one other thing. I mentioned hiring remotely, and you can hire from outside the country. I hire specifically from the Philippines, but I've hired from many other countries as well. But I also have a local employee, Candy. Now, we need to talk about the kind of the legalities of this a little bit. And if you're hiring somebody local, the IRS is going to want to know whether they're an employee or an independent contractor. So there's some determinations here. When you're hiring somebody local, like to do prep for you of your products, the IRS wants to know whether you're controlling their work environment, and that makes them an employee, or whether they get to be self-employed, basically an independent contractor, and they get to choose all these things. So if they can choose their own location, if they can choose their working schedule, if they can choose the tools and supply the tools that they use, that's one of the qualifiers for being an independent contractor. Another qualifier is if you allow the worker to choose the method in which they complete the work. If you control that, it's considered as an employee. So with product prep, one way of doing this is to allow your worker to say, well, all you need to do is produce or prep the products and get them sent in. Let's say it's going to Amazon. You just need to take these products and get them sent in to Amazon through my account. Now the rest of it, they could choose to do it at their own home or place of business. They could do it on their own hours. They can use their own computer. They can choose the method that they do to get it there. Then all of that qualifies them as an independent contractor. But I'd like to say, if you're hiring somebody from overseas, that's not within the purview of the IRS. You don't have to pay. You don't have to consider whether an independent contractor or employee. You don't have to pay any taxes on them. You don't have to give them vacation time, sick pay, workers' comp, none of that, unless you have an agreement with them to do that. The Philippines has a rule they call the 13th month, in which you pay them double in the month of December. And so that's like having a Christmas bonus, and they all expect that. So if you hire a full-time employee from the Philippines, you're probably going to want to conform to that 13th month. Anything you'd like to add to this, Anne?
No, other than that, you may be, feel out of your realm the first time that you do it, but it is so worth pursuing. I'm just going to say so many of our members do start within their family. That's not always an option, but that's what I see most commonly. But be creative. I think of one of our trainers who it was her son's best friend's mother, whom I think the mom was interested in a part-time job, so just be open to different, resources for you to find someone that can come and work for your business. For me, it's an imperative for growth, especially when I feel the angst of, why am I doing this every day? I so shouldn't be doing this. I need to be working on running the company. when you get that feeling, and granted, you got to be in revenue, but when you get that angst, and you'll know it, you can feel it, you're like, this is not work that I should be doing. I've got to grow and scale the company. That's a good signal that it's really time to get someone else, even towards the beginning, because you're going to get to the money faster when you're working on your high value activities. Christina Leo is one member that comes to mind. She did the entire book flipping, sourcing, everything from A to Z, the packing or the prepping and the shipping and everything. But then she trained her two little girls, her two daughters, and her husband. And basically it's Sunday afternoon, as I recall, they put in, her family does that. And she loves sourcing. I loved it too. I like sourcing. It's fun. Local retail arbitrage. And so she just keeps steady Freddy with the books. Her family does all the rest. And that way they feel like they're owning the outcome together too. And you can create, that vision for your family. Hey, this is what it's going to do for us. And you get buy-in. Because I'm just going to say I paid my son David when he was in 7th grade, as I recall, it was $5 an hour. I don't know if, when everyone's eating their food and everything, and it could be just, hey, that's the deal. You're going to come and work in the family business, and this helps support everything that we do together. So it depends on your own family economics for that.
Well, we've been blessed to have Candy as part of our family, marrying my stepson, and she has more buy-in because of that herself. She feels like, oh, this is a family business, and then I try to reward her in that way as well. Okay, I think, is there any other questions that we have here? Any questions at all about this?
Well, good morning to Walter, who rolled in. Good to see you, Walter. We had dinner together in Dallas 6-7 years ago or so, as I recall. Anybody else, go ahead and write in if you have any kind of question about this topic. Maybe this is all brand new to you. So there's always a little sound delay. So we've got to give time to both for people to hear us and then time to write it in. But go ahead and write in any questions you have related to this topic. So how about while we're waiting for people to type in, so Brian, how many members do you have as your, okay, we're getting a kudos from Lois. She's saying, good info, thanks. Well, you're very welcome, Lois. How many team members do you have in our, so it sounds like you're split between here in the U.S. and some in the Philippines.
Yes, and remember how I said the time to hire is before you need them? Well, I'm running into that same struggle right now. So I have 2 full-time people in the Philippines, and then I have Candy, who works part-time for me doing prep. I'm trying to bring on an a designer. I'm trying to bring on a designer. And the thing is, I need to run her through a series of test kind of work, I guess you'd say. It's a bit of training, but also I want to test her with this. And I've been struggling to find the time. If I had the time available, I'd be running her through this very quickly. But I'm struggling because I need somebody now, and I've got to take that time to train. That's how it goes sometimes. It's difficult to train when you need somebody and you're doing their job at the same time.
Yeah, we have other comments here. Judith saying, thanks for clarifying the when to hire. Michael is saying, I'm intrigued. I'm going to give some tips. I don't know the total number. It has to be 30, 40 different people at minimum that I've hired over the last 12 years since I've been online. For me, the communication process is so incredibly critical that because here on our internal team right now, it must be maybe right around 10. I have to list it all out. We do have 1 full-time member from the Philippines on our staff. She may even be watching right now. I'm not sure. But for me, as someone who's running the company, is communication is so integral that when I have it's called closing the loop. When I communicate with someone, and they kind of know this, is close the loop, got it. Like if I'm sending a message, I don't need a big reply, just got it. Because I know that people can be very, very busy when I send a request or something. I totally get that. But I just need to know, did you get my email? Got it, right? Because things do fall between the cracks. We move insanely fast within our corporate team. And the other thing is when someone completes a task, they say, done. That's all I have to do is write done. And that closes the loop for me. And some people are amenable to learning communication processes, or they have them well in place in advance. But for me personally, that's kind of, if you want to call it a pet peeve. My job is to keep everything moving forward. And so if things get glitched up in the communication process, especially when there's many handoffs within a given project, and we're not closing loops constantly along the way, and there may be, putting on an event is probably, Brian, I don't know, 200, 300, 400, 500 tasks that can take place in a 5-6 month period as we're prepping to deliver an event. And so this communication, that's what's really, really important to me. I'm just weighing as far as managing a team is that communication process. Okay, we got some more comments here. Dorothy saying, I chose to pay the packaging by piecework. They work from their own home and choose their own hours. Sometimes I would have to set a timeline.
That's excellent. So Dorothy's doing exactly that independent contractor route. She's allowing the person to work from their own location, and then she's just paying by piece, which is a performance. You do X number of units, you get this much pay. And that's an agreement that you create with the independent contractor. That's perfect. Good work, Dorothy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any other comments? Judith is saying communication is key. You can't tolerate the lack of. Yeah, it is really, really critical.
I like good decision makers. So for me, with my management style, I do not want to micromanage. And so I want my employees, when they have a problem, to try to figure it out and to make a good decision on how to figure that out. So if they come to me with every small little piece that I have to fix, I think, well, I might as well just do their job myself. Why should I have them? So I'm always looking for people that can make good decisions. And, they don't always make the decision I want. You have to empower them, give them the power to make that choice. And if they fail, repeatedly, you can come back and say, okay, this isn't working this way. I need to keep a tighter rein on them. But I really try to empower my employees.
Awesome. I don't see any other than Lisa saying that Judith is a master in communication for sure.
She is.
And very detail oriented. I think that's another, if you have generalizations and it's a multifaceted task, it's not going to fare well for that person. Detail, clear communication is really, really critical. Well, I don't see any others. We're getting kudos. Hey, folks, if you could do me a favor, I think, yes, there we go. Thank you, Brian. So thanks, everyone, for attending our Saturday morning live. And we would truly love to know what you want to hear more of. What would be helpful for your business is if you can just type that in the comments section below. We want to address the needs that you have. So you let us know and we'll get to work and we'll provide more information and training relative to, what you need more of in your business. Sharon is weighing here relative to the communication part. I experienced this yesterday when I couldn't complete a task because I didn't have a piece of the information that I needed. And then others saying where they don't have the family close enough. Okay. All right. This is excellent. Don is saying first steps on how to get started. Okay. Good deal. SOPs, standard operating procedures. For those of you who don't know, Judith is asking for. Elizabeth is asking, do you have any material on this training? Or is it recommended so I can get back to it? If you're referring to this specific training, yes, it has been recorded and it'll stay here permanently on Facebook. So you're free to come back and review as many times as you like. Okay, lots of feedback here. Thank you, Lisa. Taxes, how or what to collect. Tracy, making small gains. Your information helping us is greatly appreciated. Okay, Well, great. Other people will be watching the replay. By all means, go ahead and write in comments afterwards too. What you would like to see more of would be very helpful for us. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Brian, for putting together this material and information. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Anne. This was a joy. I really appreciate it.
There you go. Hustle and heart is what sets us apart. This is a photo from one of our many workshops. Just a quick word on that. We just came off a 4-day event in Dallas, literally this past weekend and Saturday. We were in Dallas delivering our 3-day e-commerce funnel mastery workshop. Our next event is coming up in, well, actually, we're planning to be in Sacramento, and we're going to be doing another series of the e-commerce masters intensive. We have 3 seats filled. 1 seat is still available. That will be in Sacramento, April 27th and 28th. Our plan is to also do a public presentation to the public on Friday, April 26th. So if any of you live in that area, come and join us. We'll have more information about that. Michael, ASD sourcing, we actually have a full training on that in our back office. My son, Robert, was also a part of that. We flew him over from China to help train. And we did 14 different workshops and presentations at ASD the last time we were there, all at the same event, a total of 14 different workshops and presentations. Anyways, I see a whole lot more being posted in here regarding events. And then we will have our trifecta workshop coming up in July. That is for those who are learning the local retail arbitrage model. Oh, thank you, Tim. We appreciate the kudos. Well, I think we're going to give it a wrap. Feel free to share this post and that others can get this kind of information as well. Is there one more slide? Is that it, Brian?
Let's see here.
I think
there we go. There's us. That's our group.
There we go.
Workshop. Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's us. Okay. So we hope that we'll see you at one of our live workshops.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a blessed day.